not those kind of logs, but the system logs. Every call to KNS can include multiple rule sets. Every rule set evaluation can result in multiple rules being executed. Every rule execution can result in multiple actions being taken. So if you look at a log line for our system, it can be really long, because we essentially have to encode all of that into a log line for an evaluation. So multiple things happening on lots of dimensions inside those logs. Now, to make it even more interesting, let's talk for a second about the KNS execution model. Initialization happens when the endpoint plants tags in the browser. And I'm speaking specifically about the web domain right now. Right? Initialization happens when the endpoint plants tags in the browser. Once that has happened, the endpoint is out of the picture. The tags take over and start the execution. The next thing that happens is a call to KNS happens that says, please evaluate rule set A16 cross 30. Maybe multiple rule sets, right? And that evaluation happens, and as we talked about earlier, some JavaScript gets generated, and that JavaScript gets returned to the browser, and the browser does its thing. Now we're going to go to the thing which I told you I'd show you earlier. If you look at this rule set example up here, you'll notice this thing called callbacks. Every rule can have a callback section, and callbacks define success and failure for that particular rule. And success or failure can be defined in terms of clicks and one other thing. What's the other things, Sam? My mind went blank. Anyway, there are a couple of things. We'll add new ones as we come up with them. But essentially what this is saying is that after this rule has fired, if somebody clicks on the element in the page with the class MLM link, it doesn't even have to be an href, right? It doesn't have to be a link. If it's got that class name and someone clicks on it, this automatically instruments the page so that when someone clicks on that, a callback happens to our service and tells us that they clicked on it. Make sense? So it's not just we send stuff to the page and it modifies the page. We send stuff to the page, it modifies the page, and if the user takes certain actions, stuff comes back. And in fact, this doesn't show you everything that can happen because there can be triggerings over here which change persistent variables. So you could change a counter, for example, every time this user clicks on that link. Yeah, John.
Was callback used to gather that data that we put in the form this morning? Or is that a different?
I don't know, I didn't write it. Jesse, who wrote the form thing? Were you using callback for that?
I was.
Okay, yeah. All right, so if you think about this, and we come back to our execution model for a second, what happens is we initialize, we evaluate, and then the user can take an action which results in a callback. The user could have clicked on the page and seen the modification and then gone up to answer the door, got distracted, and come back 6 hours later or the next morning and actually go, oh yeah, I did want to sign up for that, and click. So we have rule evaluation logs, and we also have callback logs, and the analytics system has to match those up so that for a particular rule evaluation, this callback happened. And so that's some of the complexity that's going on behind the scenes in the logs. So we've got evaluation logs, we've got callback logs. We also have other logs, but they're not applicable to rule evaluation. And Mike, sitting right there, call him Turbo. Mike is our data warehousing guy, our analytics guy, and it's his job to write the ETL systems that load all of this data into the data warehouse, and then the staging, testing, and loading systems which actually make that into a database which can be queried, and then build the analytics package on top of that so that you can say, oh yeah, this rule was successful 33% of the time and failed 15% of the time, and the rest of the time they didn't do anything. Right? That's the goal. And right now, the simple analytics that you get is this graph that shows up in the application tab under statistics. And it basically shows you the rule evaluations. This is actually for the Kynetx.com site, so it's not very many. We could show you others which are actually much bigger than this, but essentially you can see that. And what you're seeing is RSC and rules fired and billable RSC and that sort of thing. And that's about what we have right now, is this level of analytics. One of the things which we would love to get from you, talk to Mike, he understands this more than I do. One of the things we'd like to get from you is ideas on what kind of analytics would you like to see? What's important to you? What's going to help you in knowing what your rule set did and how it works? So, yeah, can I call you GK?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so rule set evaluation is fine, but as a business, for example, if I'm a AAA, why would I care about these rule sets? One thing I would care about is how many click-through that.
Right, and it turns out that this rule set doesn't have any instrumentation, so you're not seeing any clicks.
Right.
But for example, if we showed you the AAA data, and I don't have permission to do that, so I won't, but if we did, you'd see clicks, right? So you'd see the click-throughs, and we classify those as success or failure, and you can tell, which one's which, but that's about it for right now.
So if those are click-through, why don't use existing analytic engine which a business might be using, for example, Google Analytics?
Yeah.
Because they
So the question is, why not use Google Analytics? That's a great question. In fact, we are in the planning process of integrating Google Analytics into rule sets so that you can just specify your Google Analytics key, and it will automatically plant the tags for you, and then they'll show up in your Google Analytics. Right? So yeah, that's a great question, because that is something that's coming. We just did all of the key stuff in the language. As a matter of fact, are we announcing the error stack stuff yet? Or?
We will, yeah.
Yeah. So I think Sam will probably talk about this in advanced rule set, but we have integrated error stack, which is a way for you to see errors that your rule set is creating. And you just say key error stack, and then give it your error stack key inside the meta section, and then we take care of automatically integrating that. It's the same way that Google Analytics will work. Yep, there it is. It's on that paper. Okay. Other questions about analytics?
About callbacks.
Yeah.
So on the callback, is it going to actually execute the default action? Like if it was a link that they clicked on, will it call back to you and also?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So I've got to use a different kind of object if I just want to trap it, and can I, on an action like that, turn around and now further modify the page?
Yeah. So for example, so Scott's asking, what can I do with this? For example, I have a test rule set that I built that has a checkbox in it that never show me this again. Okay. That's not, there's no href there, it's just a checkbox. There's not even a form element around it that, right, it's just a checkbox. But, oh, that's the other one, not just click, but changed, right? So when you check the box, essentially it changes the element. That causes a callback, which triggers a flag set, which says this user has seen this and doesn't want to see it again. And then the rule essentially is checking that to say, if this flag is set, don't show the box. Okay, so that's an example of, it's not linked to anything, but it is a box that when you click on it, something happens back on the server which affects future rule set behavior.
And at that moment, can you change something on the client? Could you make it visually disappear at that moment they click that checkbox?
You could make it visually disappear, although right now you just do that by emitting JavaScript, which Sam will talk about tomorrow. We have one of the big